power in Syria for over 50 years has been replaced by what will undoubtedly be some form of brutal dictatorship with a more Islamist flavor. The Syrian civil war is, it's not clear that it's over, and it has cost more than 500,000 lives by most estimates. But if you ask Owen Jones, obviously the problem in Syria is the Jews or Israel. Um, and if you ask him for details, he will tell you what Israel does. And actually, he's pretty much on point, other than the interpretation of it. Israel is bombing some weapons that could be used if they are not bombed. Owen Jones, we've talked about Owen Jones a lot. Last time we talked about him was about a month ago when he was explaining how the Jew hunt in Amsterdam was the fault of the Jews. Now he's explaining why the trouble in Syria is the fault of the Jews. So Owen Jones is certainly consistent on what he cares about and where he stands on it. And we're going to be consistent in calling him out on it. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm joined by Daniel. Hey, Daniel, should we, do you have anything to say, or should we just jump into the first clip?
We can probably jump right away. I mean, with Owen Jones, it's better to listen to what he says. But he's sort of consistent. He's always quick to jump on Israel, quick to say no media cares about what Israel is doing. Quick to he pretty much has a certain lines that he just applies to whatever the situation is, and it's no, and it almost it's to the extent it almost doesn't make sense. So I'll just mention one thing. At some point, he says, "No one cares that Israel is breaking the law," and it's like that doesn't even make sense. Countries cannot break laws. Laws only apply in countries, so it's already,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, of course, if he's talking about international law, which is not clearly a thing, well, the nobody cares kind of goes out the window because this kangaroo court has issued arrest warrants for Israel's leaders and for dead terrorists. And the same with his complaints about the media. The mainstream media reports as if those reports are written by Owen Jones. Anyway, let's let Owen speak for himself, and
Yeah, just quickly, I'll mention it because it's not later. He said Israel is treated as being above the law. And again, it makes no sense for nations create laws. They are automatic. It's like a tautological, like they are above the law because they create the law. But let's I don't know if you study philosophy, but let's go to listen to what they actually said.
To be redrawn all the way to Damascus. He says it is written that the future of Jerusalem is to expand to Damascus, a greater Israel. Believe them the first time when they tell us who they are. As Sina Tusi, research associate at the National Iranian American Council and senior official at the Center for International Policy, puts it, Israel is systematically destroying what remains of Syria's military, naval bases, warehouses, aircraft, leaving it defenseless for a generation. It seized 235 square meters of Syrian land, which he notes is equivalent to 60% of Gaza. Yet he says, yet the world and Syria's new rulers are silent, a bid for total regional hegemony. Indeed, Israel is battering Syria with airstrikes.
This is a good place to stop because it's interesting what Owen Jones cares about. It has been for a while, which is why we talk about it. Yeah. So first of all, yeah, people are being killed. There's videos of Syrian army soldiers, surrendering and then being shot. There's multiple, endless reports and videos of the horrors that have been committed by the Assad regime and by the Assad regime's enemies that have now replaced the Assad regime. But Israel is bombing warehouses with weapons. Now, what are those weapons for? Those weapons will be used to, probably go to war with Israel at some point, or to oppress the Syrian people. But this is what Owen Jones, like everybody else in the media, has to choose what he thinks is essential, choose what he thinks is important, and then talk just about that. And he does. And it's consistently the Jews, in this case, attempting to defend themselves from future attacks by by Syria and yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also so weird. I'm not sure if this is later in the video or if it happened now, but he also talks about how Golan Heights are illegally occupied by the Israeli state, and how, well, he talked about how, Israel has seized more land, is occupying more land. He also said it's de facto annexing it. Uh, and he said it's like rightfully Syrian land. And I'm really wondering, maybe I should watch his analysis of the Syrian civil war. But does he actually believe that if the Golan Heights were to go to Syria, the people there would be it would be better in any way? I mean, I understand this like obsession with international law, but sort of the goal of everything, honestly, should be some sort of like human prosperity, should be some sort of like achievement or production. I mean, if South Korea now illegally seized parts of North Korea, according to international law, that will be illegal, and the people there should go back to North Korea. I mean, in what world is that like better way to solve this?
Well, I mean, on your question, does he think the people of the Golan Heights would be better off if Israel returned them to Syria? Of course not. That's why he wants it to happen. And look at it, look at Owen Jones's entire career and what he stands for when he's not standing for anybody who will attempt to murder Jews. He stands for anybody who will oppress their own people. He demands that in this country. He supported Jeremy Corbyn. Did he think people would be better off under Jeremy Corbyn? No. That's why he supported them. And with the Golan Heights, I mean, it's fascinating to see, to see the Golan Heights mentioned at any point as illegally occupied in Syrian property. Because when you said that up until a few days ago, you meant these people should live under the Assad dictatorship. And when you say that today, you mean they should live under the Al-Qaeda dictatorship that has replaced Assad. So that's what he means, and Owen Jones tells us what he wants, even without telling us what he wants. When he says that what Israel is trying to do by weakening the Syrian military, it's really amazing to hear that come out of his mouth, and then be, he's not even live streaming. He doesn't have the excuse of he could have edited this out. Talking about Israel wanting regional hegemony. What was that? What would that mean? That would mean peace. The Middle East is a cesspool, a complete cesspool without, even without the presence of Jews. Arabs will kill each other, as we see with the Syrian civil war and over 500,000 people dying. So what Israel bombing weapons means is that fewer people die. That is what Owen Jones is objecting to.
Yeah, and I mean, just generally talking, the way he talks about Syria as Netanyahu as I don't know if we want to say justification or as a sort of I don't even know what's the right word, but basically there was a deal between Israel and Assad's regime about the sort of the way the border between Israel and Syria is going to be managed, and pretty much since Israel. Well, no, during the Yom Kippur War, I think there was still some action in the Golan Heights, but pretty much since there was no major thing that happened there. So, you might say it's still Syrian land, but Syria doesn't had acted in no way to like get it. It's only the sort of the Western people saying, no, 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 you have to give it back. You have to give it back. And so sort of now you have this sort of new Syria, and we talked about it. It's not really a united country. There is no, where you're talking about Syria, like what are you actually like talking about? And the way he says, Syrian military, it's a Syrian government. Like, who specifically are you talking about? Like, this is like a post, well, it not even necessarily post Civil War, but it's, it was a civil war, and it still might have devolved into it at some point. And he's talking about it as if once Assad left Syria, it's like a completely new thing, and it's like a unified thing all over again. And yeah, and also just I think this push about like occupied territory and the Golan Heights specifically, it's like until when is it gonna be like an occupied territory? Like 50 years from now, are we still gonna refer to it as occupied territory according to international law? 200 years from now, 500 years from now? I mean, at what point is it? At what point do you accept? Well, okay, borders change, and we no longer view it in this way. Like I I would apply this probably everywhere. Like I think Crimea is rightfully Ukrainian, but if unfortunately there is some deal that is accepted there, I wouldn't say like 200 years from now Ukraine can just go, although who knows what it will be from 200 years from now. But it's like at some point you just accept like borders have changed, and you move
Well,
on and you try to do better. You don't have now an infinite excuse to attack Israel, although that's sort of what they want.
yeah, and that's the thing. So at no point will anybody who is against Israel accept, as long as there is this movement, the Palestinian movement and the Palestinian movement worldwide, I would call it, because they have been globalized. Um, at no point will they accept, and this is also when I'm asked about why this channel is still focusing on this one issue. It's because the issue isn't going away; it's being accelerated. We see more anti-Semitism in the world. We see more support for people whose only goal is to kill Jews. And we see it in additional context. No matter what and no matter where something is done against Jews, there will be the Owen Joneses of the world jumping to defend the attackers, to defend the worst type of dictators in the world. And yeah, so that's why this is never going away until we defeat this movement. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Jonathan says, "Great to see Razi back. Great to be back." And what better way to be back than to talk about our good old friend Owen Jones? Let's hear some more from him.
Syria's new rulers are silent, a bid for total regional hegemony. Indeed, Israel is battering Syria with airstrikes. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, they have hit 322 targets since the Assad regime fell on Sunday, including warehouses, aircraft squadrons, radars, military signal stations, and numerous weapons and ammunition depots. We can see images of some of those airstrikes.
Ya haram. Oh. يا حرام شو هاد؟
Now, we can see a map of entirely unprovoked aggression by the Israeli state against Syria, showing where bombs are being dropped across what is, after all, a sovereign nation. Now, let's quote Omar al-Shogr. He's a 29-year-old Syrian refugee, director for detainee affairs.
So I do want to talk about what he's about to talk about, but it is interesting that Owen Jones tells his audience what he thinks about them throughout every clip that he ever does. So from the start, from saying the media isn't talking about this when the media is literally using Owen Jones' talking points to report the war, to Israel is above the law when international law at the moment seemingly is, just an anti-Israel, system. To here, look at how bad things are, and then he shows a video of an explosion and fire. There's no shortage of those in Syria in the past decade plus, and a map of places that Israel bombed. That's no context thinking for no context thinkers, which is what Owen expects his audience to be, and he is probably right. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Daniel.
Yeah, and I always, when you are arguing with people like this, you have to be sort of careful because, when he says, and it's also these people are so quick to like jump on like violation of international law, and it's, even when you use it, it shouldn't be like a blank check. The way they use it, they just say it. You don't have to even refer to like specific thing. Not to mention that it's not a sovereign nation, as he said. So international law doesn't really apply in the same way. But then I always have to jump back. When I start doing that, he won. He basically won because I started taking it seriously as like international law is like a serious thing. So let's actually talk about the specific, if this is a break of international law. And that's the wrong way to go about it. You have to go about it from the grounds up, in a way, from the rights respecting way. Like, what is the proper thing to do? And the fact is that, those like the groups that are taking over Syria now are terrorist groups. Not to mention Assad's regime was on par with how much of a threat it was to Israel. So Israel, the fact that this was so quick, the fact that this was so fast and so devastating, was probably Israel already knew about all these places. And the reason why we probably saw the bombing until only until now is probably because it was much harder to straight up attack Assad's regime, or it would be, since it's supported by Russia, supported by Iran, supported by Hezbollah, it might have been harder. But now it's pretty much a void vacuum. Israel should go pretty much fully in, and anything really is okay when you can justify. Don't just randomly drop random bombs all over the place. If there is a strategic goal, you take it.
Yeah. Paul says he's friends with Mehdi. Yeah, that makes sense. Chuck says he may be retarded. I think that's what he meant by the word that has to be misspelled to get past the YouTube algorithm. No, but the thing is, he's an intelligent guy. I mean, he's retarded in the insult way, but he's an intelligent. He knows very well what he's doing, and like I said, he very much relies on his audience not being thinking people who wanna actually get the facts, understand the issue. But yeah, even if they did, in some cases, I agree with you. Sometimes it's tempting to try to take apart these people's arguments, debate them, and it's the wrong thing to do, as we're going to be talking about on the reality show. Often, by debating them, you are giving them sort of sanction that they don't deserve. Okay, let's hear some more from Owen.
Emergency task force. He was first arrested by the Assad regime at an anti-government protest when he was just 15 years old, arrested 7 times. He spent 3 years in detention, suffering torture every day, including electric shocks, beatings with cables, his fingernails removed. Both of his cousins were killed by the regime. He says the international community should celebrate the fall of Assad regime and simultaneously speak up against the Israeli occupation and expansion in Syria. Syrian weapons are the property of the Syrian people. No one has the right, in inverted quotes, to destroy them, but the Syrian people themselves. As the journalist Murtaza Hussein at the brilliant Dropsite News puts it in response to that, Israel appears to have deemed the new regime in Syria as hostile and is eliminating its weapons preemptively in order to zero out even hypothetical capacity to threaten it. That said, obviously Syria will rearm, and no attempt was made by Israel to seek pragmatic relationship. Here's a critical point. Israel has repeatedly bombed Syria under Assad over and over again, in fact.
Okay, all right.
And the Assad regime did not lift a finger.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not true. There has been or there are attempts, as you guys talked about yesterday, for a pragmatic relationship. That is not a good thing. But there are such attempts. Israel is clearly indicating to Syria, to whoever takes Assad's place, we don't want war, and they're indicating the same. And of course, Israel has listened to such indications in the past, and what it got in return for believing is they got war. But yeah, okay, so this guy who was tortured by Assad and so on, this is something that Owen Jones does. He finds someone, we're going to see this in the next clip as well. He finds the someone that he can then, point out, look, this is even this guy is saying this. Somebody who was tortured by Assad. We don't know the details of this guy. It could be that he was tortured by Assad. He was some sort of a terrorist. Good people, I'm sure, were tortured by Assad, but bad people, I'm sure, were also tortured by that regime. And why is this guy's opinion on what Israel is doing to the weapons important? And by the way, weapons are the property of the Syrian people. I don't know. I think there's some sort of a contradiction there with the use of the term property. There's issues, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, it's this whole idea of collectivized rights. Like weapons are the property of the Syrian people. Well, the Syrian people are using those guns to kill each other. I mean, what is like? That's why I don't understand. Like, what is even these people's like philosophy? What is even their standard? But how are they even judging this conflict? Like the only way I can think of it is like Israel bad is like an axiom, and you just move on from there. Because how else would you how else can you look at it? I mean, again, they have this sort of idea, this like a Platonic concept of the Syrian person who wants freedom, and somehow all of them want freedom, yet there's no push for it. It's just they didn't. Maybe the leadership meetings are all on like Sunday, and they all pray at the day, so they not all the good guys just cannot go there. Like it makes no sense. Um, so yeah, it's like, what do you even say to that? What do you even say to like such an argument? How could you even counter it? If these people don't accept Israel as like a legitimate country, as the only legitimate country really in the Middle East, then how can you, like, is every single this idea of Syria, do all the nations in the Middle East have this like right uh to exist, to like
Well,
stay,
all except
to
Israel.
just not be attacked or something?
Yeah, all except Israel. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, Razi, welcome back again. Thank you. Bonnie says, Dear Owen, watch out the next time you try to cross the street, since you have destroyed your ability to perceive reality. What an evil Jersey. I think you meant something else there, but it came out autocorrect. I'm guessing, unless evil Jersey is an expression that I don't know of. But yes, I agree. He is absolutely an evil Jersey. Thank you, PC, for another super chat. PC says Assad is gone at last. Yes, and that is absolutely a good thing, even if the people who replace him are worse than him. That's always something to remember, but it's especially something to remember with this next clip, which I want to set up before we watch it. This is Eliyahu Yossian. This is a guy from Iran, a Jew in Israel. I don't remember the details of his story, but he became a big deal after October 7th in Israeli media. He was brought on as an expert. At some point, I think pretty much all Israeli media stopped having him on because they didn't like what he had to say. Channel 14, the more right-wing religious channel, did agree to have him on, and yeah, here Owen complains about him, and of course uses that as an explanation for what Israelis think, or an example. Let's listen to it.
Wait, just quickly, are we continuing or are we jumping
No,
a
this
minute
is
ahead?
at around 7:35.
Okay.
He's a former member of Israeli Unit 8,200 military intelligence. Earlier in the year, 8,200, sorry, military intelligence. Earlier in the year, he did an interview on Israeli television in which he declared Gaza is the enemy. He's making the point that it wasn't Hamas the enemy. He said Gaza is the enemy. He declared Israel needed to level the ground there, kill the largest number possible, because he said, and I'm quoting here, the woman there is an enemy, the baby there is an enemy, and the first grader is an enemy, and the Hamas militant is an enemy, and the pregnant woman is an enemy, going on to say that we see a boy carrying chocolate in his band, yet the same boy will learn how to use a Kalashnikov in the first grade. He is a terrorist, although he is a boy. Well, nice to know what we're dealing with, isn't it? Here's what he just said a few days ago about Syria.
سوريا به هنهجت اسد زمیگراش اینترسیم شل اسرائیل ترکیا روسیا و ایران شکل خود مشخل کیوون شلو
אז מה זה אומר לגבינו? איך זה יכול להשפיע עלינו?
משפיע עלינו או לא?
איפה אנחנו באמצע?
אחד, אני אישי בעד קיומו של אסד כי הוא אויב חלש ואויב חלש משרת האינטרסים שלי אף אחד לא מבטיח לאחרי נפילת אסד מי יגיע יכול להיות אויב יותר סורר מהמשטר האיראני מי יכול להבטיח לי עכשיו אני יודע יש לי אסד חלש שכל שני וחמישי אני יכול לתקוף את סוריה בתיאום מול רוסיה וללא שום איום אז אחד אליהו יוסיאן במצב הנוכחי בעד קיומו של אסד
Well, this was just before the fall of Assad, and it's
All right.
clearly what the consensus view was for the
Yeah, I don't know if it was the consensus view. Owen Jones has, I guess, connections in the Israeli government. It may have been. It's a terrible take. It's what Israel has historically went with and has paid for. It wanted one terrorist organization because they're not as bad as the worst, and the best thing to do is to destroy your enemies, whoever they are, and however many there are of them. But this brings me back to what Israel actually did, which Yosian didn't predict. Neither did I, which is that we're going to talk at some point later on about Israel's incredible operation in Syria. It's really something that is game changing because Syria will now no longer be a threat. This is one of the countries that has posed the biggest threat to Israel since Israel's founding and before, and now it will no longer be that for a very, very long time. So this is an amazing moment, and much better than a weakened Assad, by the way, who can be sent weapons by Russia or Iran at a moment's notice. Now, these guys, Al-Qaeda, can be sent weapons by Turkey at a moment's notice, but I think for Turkey it'll be a bit more difficult since they still want to probably be a part of NATO and they want to have some sort of relationship with the West. So, Owen Jones. For Owen Jones, the problem is that Israel can at any level defend itself. That is his problem. But here we see also that some people in Israel can be wrong, although not in the sense that Owen Jones says. Now, just a quick point on the child is going to be a terrorist and so on. That's a terrible thing to say. It's statistically probably right that UNRWA will raise the next generation of terrorists unless Israel does something about it. But an individual human being, certainly a child, is still to be judged as an individual, and a child is always innocent. So that is a very unfortunate take. It is not the usual position of people in Israel, but it is 100% the position of the Palestinians about Jews. So the Palestinians that Owen Jones supports.
Yeah, I mean the idea of commenting on him, the idea of keeping Assad's regime alive, just because it's like a weak enemy. I mean, again, it sort of supports this idea of just support the lesser of two evils, or in geopolitics. No, just take the actions that are necessary to protect it, and at some point, they might think twice before setting up another terrorist organization. But if you support one of them, then why would they ever stop doing terrorism if they can actually get a support from you? When it comes to sort of the comments on Gaza, I mean, I can see, well, I don't know much about him, so I don't know what his motivation is for saying that. There is some way in it that's true, in a sense of you consider the people in a sense as the enemy because they are the ones supporting the regime, they're the ones sustaining the regime, and of course something like providing them with humanitarian aid only prolongs this war. And so in that way you sort of view them as enemy. But I think in a way of like, you just kill every child you see just because they, in 5 years they might grow up to become an enemy. I think it's really like it's a really wrong way, not to mention even counterproductive. You're not achieving any goals by doing that. Which again should be the number one thing. The reason why you're pursuing a war, either in a defensive way that you were attacked, or proactively, is to defend your own people. You don't defend your own people just by killing random children. You do it by making sure the regime collapses as soon as possible. And and afterwards either occupy it if that makes the most sense at the moment, or just straight up leaving or setting up some alternative regime, again only if that would sort of serve the interest again of the people that got attacked.
The new Bronze Age collapse. Thank you for the super chat. The new Bronze Age collapse says, our boy Razi is back in town. Here, here. Thank you. I am back. I will be here on the reality show as well, which follows, where we will be talking about the Oxford debate again, and mostly criticizing the pro-Israel side. Tomorrow on the Daily Objective, we have we're going to be talking about the left's favorite murderer in the U.S., the murderer that has really many people are fans of this guy because, you know, he killed somebody successful. And then tomorrow on the reality show, we will be talking about Candace Owens' latest hit. Thank you, Christian, for the super chat. Christian says, great to see Razi back, and I still love the smell of napalm in the morning. All right, thank you, and thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you on the reality show in 2 minutes. Thanks.